All right, so welcome back to Justice Tech Talk, where we bring legal to the people to explore how technology is reshaping the future of law and access to justice. I'm your host, Johnny Law, and happy to welcome Anastasia Boyko to the show. Anastasia, you're a futurist lawyer, and you bring a lot of clarity and entrepreneurial mindset in fundamentals and not hype. And I wanted to bring you on the show because we're really moving fast in the AI world. There's strong winds of changes. Law schools really know that this is something important. Big law firms were not really looking at it, but now every single one of them has an AI investigations committee if they're not already using it in the firm. And students are feeling the pressure. They're wondering what's going to happen. The economy is already contracting, and they're starting to hear less firms are hiring junior associates. Everybody's freaking out. And I wanted you to bring you here to be the voice of calm. What exactly is going on and what should students be thinking about for the future?
Yeah, so thank you for having me. It's also really fun to be the guest versus the host. I have my own podcast on PLI called How to Navigate Law School. So it's fun to be on the other side. And a lot is happening. You are in a storm. It is a bit chaotic. No one can predict what's going to happen. But I think we can look to previous moments of inflection, looking at the financial crisis and seeing how firms and law schools reacted to hiring trends at that time and try to adjust for those things, knowing that they're in a reactive posture versus a proactive posture. We can look at what happened with COVID and with the massive demand for legal talent that was unpredicted in 2021 and how law firms reacted to what they were offering associates, both in compensation as well as just the overall training experience. Now we're in this AI wave, which I think actually does a much bigger, more impactful disturbance than any of the previous ones. Because what happened with those iterations in our recent memory is as soon as the firm started making money again, they went back to the same kind of training model. Whereas here, I think AI has gotten way more adoption by lawyers than any other previous technology. I think it's created a hype cycle, at least in the way that you're seeing other firms adopt new technology and people are paying attention in a way where more and more firms are buying a larger and larger legal tech stack. But it's also underscoring how we learn the law,
Mm.
both in law school and how we learn to be lawyers. So it's shining a light in a way that I don't think any previous technology or historical event has.
AI is not only a big investment from law firms, but how do you see it closing the gap of access to justice, which is this channel idea of bringing legal to the people, where so many who have a dispute will never get effective legal representation?
Yeah, so we had a pretty controlled system before. If you needed help, you would go and try to find enough money to find a lawyer. There might be a legal aid organization that could help you. But everybody in the middle didn't really have many options. If you weren't able to afford someone or you didn't meet certain income thresholds to be able to get help from legal aid, you were stuck trying to figure it out on your own. The access to justice gap at this point is estimated 92% of people who need legal services are not getting them. So I think what AI has done is help consumers get information. Many people are going to ChatGPT to get context around their legal problem and how to think about it. Right now, ChatGPT helps direct you to lawyers as well. So it becomes a referral network. Direct to consumer information is a big piece of it. I think it's also become a tool to help people bridge the access to justice gap. There are so many cool justice tech companies and platforms that are coming in and saying, we just need to get information to people who might be renters to understand their rights vis-a-vis their landlords, to understand their ability to remedy any sort of bankruptcy or credit card debt, to understand general custody issues. And we can use ChatGPT as a resource to be able to get them closer to the know-how that used to be monopolized by lawyers. Then they can come and make more informed decisions around potential legal help as they navigate all of this. But frankly, I look at it as a know-how gap versus oftentimes we look at these really dire circumstances around access to justice, whether it's making sure you have custody of your kids, making sure you're staying in your home. Those are really important. But then there's everybody who is trying to navigate this, but doesn't have a beat on how to begin asking the questions. So maybe I want to start a small business. Where do I go? What are the rules in my state? What kind of entity would I want to form? How would I do that? How would I find a startup lawyer? There are all of these new ways of gaining knowledge that used to be dominated and gatekept by lawyers. And frankly, it's better for lawyers that clients aren't asking them to give a 30,000-foot view of an area, but are coming with more informed questions. It's a much more efficient transaction vis-a-vis representation.
I loved you said that a more informed consumer makes a better client. And on the flip side, what are some of the risks?
I think this is where lawyers are great at issue spotting. You learn this in law school, and you start seeing the dangers of this in the sense there isn't someone to guide you through this. So a lot of what I think many lawyers, when they start practicing law and start interacting with clients, learn, clients don't have the context for the questions they're asking. You learn a framework for how to navigate a problem within the legal system in law school. So if someone is just asking a question to ChatGPT, they're going to get as good of an answer as what they're asking. So they may not give it context around state-specific issues, or they may not give it all the relevant facts and doesn't necessarily know to ask for those things. Simultaneously, may not give them an accurate answer, and they wouldn't call it out. No, you're wrong. Let me give you another context clue so you can give me a more accurate answer. And so I think that's part of the challenge, but it's also like we're not putting the genie back in the bottle. Just like people got very comfortable using WebMD as they figure out what kind of medical support they need, I think we're already there with legal. And people are getting comfortable getting a good enough answer, even just talking through some issues that might be legal or quasi-legal. So I get excited because it helps to educate people around how to think through these things. Lawyers will never be replaced by robots. And I think that's super interesting. People go to that extreme versus realizing that we're just going to get to do higher level work, critical thinking, better advisory and judgment provision instead of work that's become rote over time that doesn't necessarily seem as fulfilling as some of the more higher level work that we could do with clients.
In terms of what AI is revealing, going back to law schools, what are the gaps? What are you finding? If you were to triage a law school, where would you start?
So when I went back to build a leadership program at Yale, I came from practicing in big law, from working for a legal tech company that was focused on learning and development across the AmLaw 200, smaller firms, in-house departments, coming from being on the practice management side of a firm, and then also being in the in-house world and seeing what skills you need when you're inside of a corporate legal department. So I saw clearly what did and didn't work, what I was missing when I was a law student. So that was the perspective I took. What gaps do we need to fill that I kept hearing consistently in all of those roles? So I think part of the challenge is just the practicality of learning to be in a professional organization. So many people still go straight through to law school. Some might take a few years off, but the positive trend, folks taking some time off and getting professional skills, there still is a gap between learning doctrinal law, having a clinic or experiential learning, and then going into a professional services firm, a high caliber, multi-billion dollar, high client demand professional services firm. So I think there's some basic professional skills taught in business school that don't get taught in law school. Like, how do you work on teams? How do you give and receive feedback? Negotiation, public speaking, financial literacy, right? This is one that we just take an L on over and over in law schools, where knowing accounting, corporate finance, statistics is just a different language. And lawyers shy away from that. But that stuff is not more complicated than legal reasoning. It just isn't. So we should lean into helping lawyers get different tool sets to be able to navigate this. Professional skills, financial literacy, career pathing. We don't necessarily do a great job of helping students understand what they can do after law school. We don't do a great job of helping them understand themselves so that they're making bespoke, intentional, deliberate decisions about what they should be doing after law school that will bring them fulfillment and also serve any other needs they have. So I feel like law schools are still stuck very much in the 1970s pedagogical model of a doctrinal learning environment. To your point, you're in the 13-week learning session, you're being lectured at you're taking an exam at the end. There's so many more interesting, creative ways of learning. And what I'll say is encourage faculty to go back to the days of the pandemic where we had to go to remote learning. Many faculty did a great job of getting creative about how do I get the content across to my students in this new medium and still keep them engaged. And so now we have AI to do that. You've got a study buddy that can help you understand the content class to class. So I think it behooves faculty to understand how these tools work so that they can enhance what it is that they're delivering to their students. Similarly, schools that do have robust clinical programs, it's such an opportunity to pull those into innovation labs or direct services clinics to help teach those skills to students and fill the gap that faculty can't meet or doesn't have the bandwidth to meet, but help students get curious about what questions to ask and how to understand a new way of doing things.
I really love that. I was invited by my properties professor to teach how to use AI responsibly and not just simple task. I goes, guys, you are missing the boat. It's more about understand the rule of law, but now stretch it and play with it like a gear. Figure out the limitations, give it new scenarios. Basically, it's your professor right there. Have it do the Socratic method with you, challenge you and how you understand it, because that's where you really learn. And I think professors can really benefit, like at the end of a module, have them go into virtual AI professor so they can assess them that way.
I'll also put a plug in. ChatGPT can give you a whole persona of your law professor. I taught a human-centered design class at Harvard Business School. I was a guest lecturer, and it was really fun because I had taken the mandate to build the program, and I asked it to build it from the perspective of one of my former law professors. I was like, all right, you're this person, take all of their publications, their articles, their public views of what a leadership program should be, and give me one from their perspective. What was hilarious is I've spoken to this faculty member before, so I knew what I got was spot on. It was able to pull from the scholarship and get themes and see what's important. Part of the challenge is understanding the perspective that the person teaching you is bringing and understanding what their place is in scholarship vis-a-vis other people. And we don't think about that. We just go into class and we learn directly, hoping through osmosis we'll learn all this stuff. But like, let ChatGPT give you the context for how your professor thinks, how others in their area of expertise also think. Use those different personas as study buddies in your ChatGPT. And
Yeah.
you're right, create a quiz for yourself after every single class. So if you're not getting that feedback directly in class, have AI help you get that feedback as to whether you comprehend. But you have to know how to do it the old way. Talking to a lot of legal writing professors as they think about AI as a teaching tool, I think many of them still want to teach the analog version to their students before they start integrating AI as a helpful tool. You do need to understand how to do it the long division way. And then you can start using those tools to help you get better and faster. But you have to understand why it's organized the way that it's organized. I actually think ChatGPT is a tool in that exercise because your faculty may not be available or desiring to explain it the long way for you or why it is the way that it is. Here, you can do it on your own time, on your own schedule, as you're learning different things. You can use so many, to your point, so many different ways of learning. I was so frustrated. I hated law school because it was the first time that I felt stupid in my academic career. None of this makes sense. The way that this information is being presented to me, had I had a tool like ChatGPT when I was a student, oh man, having it explain, like, how cool. What a gift.
So if you were to design your own law school and you were going to build it from the ground up, what would it look like for you?
I think it's a funny question because I already have the answer because I've already done it. I got to go back into a storied institution and reflect on what works and what doesn't work in a place that's been around for 2 centuries. I got to collect feedback from current students and alumni to see where the gaps are. I think there is some benefit in the doctrinal model. Understanding these foundational doctrinal courses is super valuable because it does make you have to think and understand critical thinking. What is issue spotting? Why is it dicta versus holding? It does make you get into the weeds of why we have this system, how jurisprudence works, learning how to think on your feet and how to create a rubric of logical reasoning in your head. I think every law school should have robust clinical and experiential learning experiences. Yale is lucky in the sense that students begin to do that in the second semester of their 1L year. I think there's no greater learning than trying, right?
Yep.
Like you have a client that needs direct help. Can you do that with supervision? Can you figure out the system, practical, legal ways to resolve these kinds of issues? Legal issues can seem abstract until we help with the limited amount of knowledge that I know. I think workshops are a key piece of how we add to this, right? As I was saying, how to work in teams. We should do a workshop about how to work in teams that's coupled with the beginning of your clinical program and
Yep.
your experiential class, because you should understand those things with your professor as you're working through it. I'm a huge proponent of self-reflection and self-assessment. So I think every law school should begin with a self-assessment. I'm a huge fan of StrengthsFinder because we go in there and we're trying to like adapt to what we think is expected of us. That's how college and high school sort of work, right? We check the box. When we get to law school, we now have to start making decisions about what we want. And although a lot of type A overachievers tend to follow that same rubric of what do I have to do to succeed? Is it a clerkship? Is it law journal? Is it a specific job? What I push students to do at the very beginning of law school is to take some sort of self-assessment, see what your unique strengths are, see where you aren't as interested in other things, and double down on the things that you naturally like and you're naturally good at. That's where you're going to succeed. So this idea of you need to figure out how to be good at your weaknesses. We can only make marginal impact on the things that we're naturally not good at. We don't like to do them and we're naturally not good at them. So should we understand them? Sure. Should we understand our limitations? Sure. But really the kind of work that you want to be doing is in the area that you like, where you have natural abilities for. So I always say, figure out what those are. Figure out your unicorn skills based on your life experiences, how your brain works, what you're excited about, and then figure out where you want to do that for money.
Great you said that because I came into law school saying, where are my gaps? How can I do the complementary and grow in those areas? But then I had that realization, what comes easily? Where do you get the least resistance? I had that aha moment. So it's serendipitous you say the same thing.
The psychology on fulfillment says you got to find flow. What we do instead is we take these brilliant entrepreneurial students who want to impact positive change. I think that's why many students go to law school. And then they get there and they're told, like, nope, there's only one way to do this. Here is the box. These are the three options afterwards. I was like, that's just not true. It took me a long time Goldilocksing through my career to find that you can do anything with this skill set. It is a critical thinking skill set, which is paramount right now in an age of AI. It's also a sales skill set to learn how to convince people of things, how to write persuasively, how to speak persuasively, and then also look at a complex problem holistic and figure out how to diagnose it, operationalize it. All the skills you're learning are so transferable and frankly so valuable in an age of AI. So figure out what kind of problems do you want to solve? How are you good at solving problems? And then figure out where you want to do that for money. I keep saying the for money part because smart people who are multi-passionates are curious and they're learners. Some of those things are just hobbies and interests. I love politics. I don't want to be a politician, right? I also love executive coaching. I don't really like charging for it. I like helping people navigate their careers and think through their limitations. But that's not stuff I like to do for money as my prime job. So you have to be thoughtful about how you direct yourself through law school, what you take, what you want to learn about, what clinics you want to get into, what labs you want to be a part of. And you need to do it for yourself because no one else is just going to pluck you out. You might get lucky. Somebody might take you under their wing and guide you through, but you're responsible for your career and you have so much agency in this process, even if it may not feel that way initially.
100%. I love that you said that. We're coming up on our time. I want to be respectful of yours. But before we go, since this is a Thanksgiving edition, what are you grateful for in this year?
Yeah, you know what I'm grateful for? I'm grateful for the amazing people in my tribe. So I talked about this recently at the Good Lawyer Conference, but I think it's paramount to take all the masks that we wear off and present our most authentic self, because then the people who genuinely like us will find us. And so I think this is like the first year in my whole professional life where I feel like I've been able to do that. And the people who are drawn to me are exactly who I want in my tribe. So I've found so many great thought partners who are drawn to the honest version of myself. We're able to collaborate on ideas, work on projects together, and it feels honest. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to contort myself into something. I'm just showing up as me with my experiences and my approach, and they're doing the same. And there's truly no more fulfilling professional experience than getting to be authentic and getting to be seen in that authenticity.
That is awesome. I'm extremely grateful for you joining us here on Justice Tech Talk. This is our second episode where we're bringing legal to the people. So I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And again, thank you, Anastasia, for joining us on our show. See everyone next time.